My dear friends, if you will permit an old scientist to share not an equation, but a contemplation. I have spent my life peering into the quiet secrets of the universe, into the fabric of space and the curious dance of time. And from this long conversation with the cosmos, a singular, profound truth has emerged, one that is not written in the language of mathematics, but felt in the very pulse of existence. You cannot be alive without knowing death. It sounds like a paradox, does it not? A contradiction. We are taught to see them as eternal opponents, life and death, locked in a battle where one must ultimately, tragically, lose. But I ask you to look deeper, with the same sense of wonder we might apply to a beam of light. When we understand that light behaves as both a particle and a wave, we begin to see beyond simple categories. So too must we look beyond the simple categories of alive and dead. Consider a simple candle flame. What is it? A brilliant, dancing manifestation of energy. It gives light. It gives warmth. It is, in its own way, truly alive. But can this flame exist without the constant, unending transformation of its own substance? The wax is consumed. It ceases to be wax. And in that very act of cessation, the flame leaps into being. The death of the wax is the very condition for the life of the flame. They are not two processes, but one single, unified event. To have the light, you must have the transformation. You cannot have one without the other. This is not a sequential process of life followed by death, but a synchronous, interdependent relationship. The flame is a process, a verb, not a static noun. It is a flaming, and this flaming is defined by its consumption of the wax. Now, look at your own hand. Hold it up before you. It appears solid, permanent, a fixed object in space and time. But what is it truly? A temporary pattern, a whirlpool in the endless stream of energy and matter. The atoms that form your skin, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, they were forged in the hearts of ancient, long-dead stars. A star lived a magnificent billion-year life, and then, in a spectacular conclusion, it died. It scattered its essence across the void. That stellar death is the very reason you are here to draw breath. The end of that star was the beginning of you. Your body is a collection of relics from a cosmic funeral, reassembled into a living, breathing monument. Every breath you take contains atoms that were once part of Caesar's last sigh, of Leonardo's focused exhalation as he painted the Mona Lisa. The universe is in a constant, dynamic state of recycling, and what we call death is merely the moment when the borrowed materials are returned to the great cosmic library, to be lent out again for another story. So, when you fear death, what is it that you fear? Are you fearing the star that went supernova to gift you your body? Are you fearing the candle wax that must be consumed so the light can shine? Or are you fearing the inevitable and necessary return of the materials that were never truly yours to keep, but only to borrow and use for a fleeting, glorious moment? This fear, I propose, stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of property. We believe we own our bodies, our lives, but we are merely tenants, temporary custodians of a stardust composition. We are, all of us, transient configurations. The universe expresses itself as a human being for a brief, wondrous moment, just as it expresses itself as a galaxy or a snowflake. The configuration is temporary, but the underlying substance, the energy, the matter, the music of existence, that is eternal. It was here long before this particular pattern called I assembled itself, and it will be here long after it disperses. This is not a cold, scientific fact to be acknowledged and forgotten. It is a source of immense comfort and perspective if we have the courage to embrace it fully. The fear of death arises from a misidentification, a narrowing of our sense of self. We believe we are the pattern, and only the pattern. We cling to the specific arrangement of atoms, to the particular story of our ego, our name, our memories. And because all arrangements must eventually change, we live in a state of quiet or sometimes deafening terror. We build fortresses around our identities, hoping to keep the tide of time at bay. But what if you are not merely the pattern? What if you are also the painter? What if the same cosmic intelligence that painted the whirlpool into the stream of a river, that painted the spiral of a galaxy, that painted the unique pattern of a snowflake, has also painted you? The painting is temporary. The act of painting is eternal. The painter is eternal. When you identify solely with the painting, the specific form you kindly inhabit, you are bound to experience anxiety about its eventual fading. But when you begin to sense, even faintly, that you are also participating in the act of painting, that you are an expression of the painter itself, the context of your existence shifts dramatically. The end of a single painting is not the end of art. In fact, it makes way for the next masterpiece. This is not to devalue the profound beauty and uniqueness of your current form, but to place it within a grander, more enduring context. A context where death is not an annihilation, but a necessary part of the creative process itself. This brings us to a most curious human invention, the line. We draw a line in the sand and say, this is here and that is there. We draw a line on a calendar and say, this is the beginning and that is the end. We look at a river and, for the sake of convenience, we give different names to different stretches of it. But the river itself does not know these names. It is one continuous flowing whole. We have drawn the most profound and terrifying line of all between what we call life and what we call death. And in doing so, we have created an illusion of separation that causes us immense suffering. We believe we are on one side of the line, staring in horror at the other. But the universe does not recognize this line. In the cosmos, there is only transformation, a process of endless, seamless becoming. Think of your own body. You are not the same collection of atoms you were 7 years ago. Every cell is in a state of constant flux. Old cells die by the millions every second, and new ones are born. A quiet, continuous death is the very price of admission for your continued life. If this cellular death were to stop, you would cease to be. So, where is the line? At what precise moment can you say the old you died and the new you was born? The question is meaningless. You are a river, not a statue. But when we mistake the map for the territory, we fall into despair. We are like a person who, upon seeing a rainbow, tries to find the pot of gold at the end of one specific color, not realizing that the rainbow is a continuum of light. a seamless gradient with no hard borders. The fear of death, then, is the fear of a phantom. It is the fear of a line that we ourselves have drawn and then forgotten that we were the artists who drew it. We have become terrified of our own creation. We stand on the bank of the river of our own existence, pointing at a specific whirlpool and naming it my life. And then we weep because we see it eventually dissolve back into the current. We mourn the whirlpool without celebrating the river. What if we could shift our perception? What if we could see ourselves not as the temporary whirlpool, but as the whole river? The river that was there before the whirlpool formed and will be there after it is gone. The river that encompasses both the calm stretches and the raging rapids, the clear pools in the muddy estuaries, the river that includes, within its long journey, every single transformation. This is not merely a philosophical idea. It is an empirical fact, visible in the very stardust of your being. The carbon in your cells, the oxygen in your lungs, the nitrogen in your DNA. They have been on a journey far longer and more adventurous than any story you could ever tell about yourself. They have been part of asteroids, comets, ancient oceans, and prehistoric forests. They have been in the bodies of dinosaurs and in the first blades of grass. They have been recycled through the great planetary system for billions of years. Your personal story is but a single, recent paragraph in an epic saga that has no true beginning and no conceivable end. To cling to the paragraph is to miss the point of the story. The story is not about the permanence of the paragraph, but about the beauty, the drama, and the meaning contained within it. And when the paragraph ends, the story does not end. It simply continues, with new characters, new settings, new plots, all written with the same eternal ink. So, how do we live knowing this? How do we walk through our days with the awareness that we are a temporary, yet eternal, expression of the cosmos? This is not a call for nihilism, for if nothing matters, then everything is permitted. No, this is an invitation to a more profound, more vibrant, and ultimately more joyful way of being. It is the difference between seeing the world as a collection of frozen objects and experiencing it as a flowing, dynamic process in which you are intimately involved. Imagine two people standing before a magnificent ancient redwood tree in a misty forest at dawn. The first person sees the tree as a static object, a thing. They might admire its height, its girth, but their experience is one of separation. They are here, and the tree is there. They might even feel a tinge of envy for its perceived permanence compared to their own fleeting existence. The second person knows, feels in their bones that they are looking at a slow, majestic dance of molecules that have been part of this planet for millennia. They see the sunlight being transformed into leaves, the rain being drawn up through ancient roots, the carbon from their own breath being woven into new wood. They feel a kinship, a participation in the same grand biological process. They understand that the very air they exhale feeds the tree, and the tree's exhalation feeds their next breath. For this second person, the experience is not one of observing a thing, but of communing with a process of which they are an intimate part. There is no separation, only a unified, breathing entity. This is the shift. When you release the tight fist of ownership over your life, when you stop trying to be the statue and allow yourself to be the river, you do not lose anything. Instead, you gain the entire universe as your home. The immense pressure to make your mark in a permanent way,
to build a monument that will outlast the ages, evaporates.
In its place blooms the simple, profound intention to live fully, to experience deeply, to love openly, not because these actions will grant you immortality, but because they are the natural, beautiful, and spontaneous expressions of the cosmic energy that you, in this unique and precious moment, are. You begin to act not for a distant, future reward, but for the inherent value of the action itself, for the sheer joy of participation in the cosmic dance. When you hold a child's hand, you are not just one person holding another. You are the universe in one of its finite forms, comforting itself in another. When you feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, you are not separate from it. You are a part of the star's extended family, feeling its embrace across the vastness of space. When you gaze at the night sky, you are not a tiny being looking out at an immense void. You are the universe, looking back at itself, contemplating its own mysterious origins and infinite possibilities. This realization is not an intellectual abstraction, but a visceral, transformative experience that can infuse even the most mundane moments with sacred significance. The steam rising from your morning coffee becomes part of the same atmospheric dance as the clouds in the sky. The weariness in your bones at the end of the day echoes the gravitational pull of the moon on the oceans. Every sensation, every emotion becomes a point of contact between your temporary form and the eternal flow of existence. A wave does not strive to remain a wave. It does not clutch at its crest in a panic as it feels itself nearing the shore. It simply expresses its waveness with all the energy and grace it possesses, knowing, or rather without needing to know, that its return to the ocean is not a failure, but a fulfillment. It is completing its cycle. In the same way, your life is not a project to be completed, a problem to be solved, or a test to be passed. It is a song to be sung. The knowledge of the final note, the inevitable silence at the end, does not ruin the song. It gives it its shape, its emotional weight, its bittersweet beauty. It is what makes the song worth singing with every fiber of your being. It focuses your attention on the music you are making now. Will you sing a timid, quiet melody, afraid of the wrong note? Or will you pour your entire soul into a chorus so powerful and true that its vibration will linger in the hearts of others long after the sound has faded from the air? The choice is yours, and it is made anew in every moment. And remember, even the silences between the notes are part of the music. The moments of rest, of reflection, of stillness are not empty pauses, but essential elements that give the melody its rhythm and depth. In embracing the entirety of the composition, the sound and the silence, the activity and the rest, the life and the death, we find the wholeness that we have been seeking all along. To be alive is to participate in this great cosmic dance of transformation. To know death is to hear the rhythm that gives that dance its meaning. You are the universe, momentarily conscious of itself, gifted with the awesome responsibility and privilege of experiencing its own grandeur. So, experience it. Do not just pass through it. Feel the wind not as an abstract meteorological phenomenon, but as the caress of the atmosphere of your planet. Taste the water as the ancient, life-giving substance that connects you to all living things. Look into the eyes of another temporary, eternal expression of stardust and see the whole cosmos looking back. Do not fear the return of your borrowed atoms to the great cosmic cycle,
for they were never yours to keep. They were alone, and a magnificent one at that. Celebrate the incredible statistical miracle that they came together in such a way as to allow you to think, to feel, to love, and to wonder, even for a fleeting moment. That moment, this very one you are in now, is your canvas.
That is your masterpiece. Do not spend it anxiously preparing for its end. Paint it with courage, with joy, with curiosity, and with an unshakable knowing that you are and always will be an inseparable part of the eternal, creative, and unimaginably beautiful whole. The painter and the painting are one. The dancer and the dance are inseparable. You are not a guest in this universe.
You are the universe itself, and it is your home. And in this home, there are no true goodbyes, only endless, wondrous transformations. Every sunset is simultaneously an ending and a promise of a new dawn.
Every farewell contains within it the silent, unspoken greeting of a future meeting. Every death is, in its essence, a new configuration of the eternal, dancing energy that you have always been and will always be.